What's going on, DJ Nerds? In today's video, we'll be covering Blackhole, how to use Blackhole, and how to farm it like a millionaire. So without further ado, we'll be exploring a couple of platforms that will maximize your potential in using Blackhole. Let's just go ahead and dive right into it. All right, so we are on the Blackhole Dex, and we're gonna be going through the platform and showing you how to basically maximize everything. So with that said, what I like to do is click on the liquidity tab, select all and select APR and click on that, and it'll show me the highest APR. The other stats I like to look at is total value locked and the volume coming through. So if there's not a whole lot of total value locked and then the volume is super high, your liquidity is probably going to be used a lot. This is kind of like greater than like 7-to-1 ratio here, which is pretty good. So the higher the ratio, the more that your liquidity might be used, generating more fees, right? By the way, this platform's only a few weeks old. It has $284 million in value locked and $1 billion in volume, which is insane. What we could do here is, like, let's say we wanted to farm this pool. I could click on deposit and it's going to set me up here. It'll default to common, which is like the range where my liquidity like would likely be used, or I could go like a wider, or I could go full, which would be like, you can see here, like that's not a really good APR. Wide is 938%, common 1500, and narrow, which is the smallest range, 2345. Of course, the more amount of liquidity in this pool, the lower the APRs will be. It kind of like automatically adjusts and stuff like that. That's kind of how like that's set up. Now, people that like to do like these concentrated pools, which are different from the basic. So the basic pools are these VAMM pools where it's like less managed, but the concentrated pools, your liquidity is being used within a certain range, and it's a little bit more of a manual setup or a more kind of like management, right? But also a little bit more risky at the same time of like impermanent loss or, you know, price fluctuations, and your liquidity is not being used within that range. So it's kind of just like earning emissions, but no fees. So those are the kind of like differences there. And then of course there's like volatile versus stable pools as well, but we'll stick to kind of like the basics for now. Again, like that's how you would set it up on Blackhole. Now, how you would basically use a platform like Vfat to set it up is like a lot different because they have a lot more options and a lot more metrics to look at. So I can come over here to Vfat, which is a platform I'm actively using. So let's say I want to choose this concentrated liquidity pool over here, USDC Black. You can basically come over to here to Vfat and click on the yield tab and click on farms, and you have to come over here to protocols, select black, and it'll show you only black pools. Now, if we didn't have this selected, it'll show you literally like all the pools, and these are all like the different blockchains and all the different pools across crypto. But again, we want to make sure we select protocol, Blackhole, and sort by average APR. We want to select this USDC Black pool, and we can see that there's actually only 280K that is in range right now. So there's active TVL is 500K. The total amount in the entire pool is 738,000 worth of crypto in that pool. But again, only 280 is in range right now. So we could take advantage of this using a platform like Vfat. You could do that manually as well. Again, we could come over here and set like the custom range, but that's going to require a little bit more of active management. So if you're like me, you have a life outside of crypto, you might want to come over to Vfat and set all these automations up to take advantage of that. So out of the box, it already sets up everything for you pretty much. Sets up like a 2% range for you already, and you can see where the price is like falling, that blue line. And then we want to automate rebalancing, which is pretty cool. If this falls out of range, it'll pull the liquidity and rebalance your liquidity back into the range, which is pretty dope. And then we can go over here, click turn this off. We don't want to harvest the rewards because that would send it back to our wallet. We want to auto compound the rewards back into the liquidity. So we'll turn that off. And then the dust here, if it exceeds like 1% dust, it's not gonna like rebalance that into it until it hits that metric of no more than like 1% dust. So if you're okay with receiving more than 1%, you can do that. Slippage you can set as well. So pretty low slippage, 0.5, which is like pretty efficient. Anything more than that, you're gonna start like losing kind of chunks of money when it goes to rebalance to like the liquidity or the, you know, the swaps. So again, you can just go off of this here, like it's already set up for you. You don't have to change anything. Automate rewards, we want to turn that on to auto compound. You can do auto harvest as well, but again, we went to auto compound, and we want to throw in all the rewards we're getting back into the liquidity pool so we can earn greater amounts of emissions and rewards, right? With that said, if my wallet was connecting, it'll have a deposit button down here, and it'll show you all the different swaps it's going to do for you. Like, let's say you only have Avalanche token, like you only have AVAX, you can select that actually, and it'll perform all the swaps for you and automatically deposit your liquidity into the pool. So you don't even have to do like any of the swaps. You'll have to do some pre-approvals, and it'll even set up a smart contract for you that helps automate all of this on your wallet, which is pretty cool. It's like semi-permissionless in a way, and less their fees. They do have fees here. It's like 0.9% to do, it does all the swaps for you, and like another 1.9% to do the automate the rebalancing and auto compounding and stuff like that, which is pretty minimal compared to other platforms out there that can charge, you know, up to 5 to up to 10% performance fees and things like that. So I found that Vfat is pretty efficient and low on the fee side. Pretty cool features, and you can see on the fly like how much is actually within range and how much you could be earning over here on APRs on the fly and all that good stuff. So super useful platform. It looks kind of like, at first the UI, you're kind of like, this is either too basic or too advanced looking, but after a couple days you realize like, oh, this is pretty easy. And then you can click on deposit over here, and it'll show you your active deposits. So obviously if my wallet was connected, it would take me to all my deposits that would look like this, and it'll show me how much I'm earning currently. So all the emissions coming in, it'll show how much I've earned on that couple hours, and then it'll show me the optimization that it's using to, like, it'll say $150 is the optimal time to automate the compounding back into the pool. And it'll check like every minute or 2 or 5 minutes to see if it's hit that threshold, and then once it hits it, it'll automatically compound that back into the pool, which is pretty stinking cool. There's other cool features. You can like withdraw like 10% of your liquidity out into a certain amount of token of your choice on Avalanche, which is pretty dope. There's a lot of cool stuff. You can deposit manually back in. There's a lot of features on the deposit side that is pretty cool. It'll show like a guesstimate or like an estimated amount of daily rewards that you're getting. So if you have like 80K in the pool, it'll show like, you know, 3K is how much you'd be earning per day, or 4K, or however much the amount is. That is pretty much the setup right there on Vfat. Pretty straightforward. Again, you'll have to do some approvals and set up that sickle smart contract and things like that. Now, with that said, the next game is basically seeing where the whales are at. A good indication, in my opinion, could be the Black token. Right now it's at 89 cents, $96 million market cap. Has done pretty well short term, and we're just kind of going into possibly the bull run next month, so we'll see based on when the Fed will cut those rates. But for this metric over here, the burns are going to be a pretty good metric to see how much people are like locking up in like these NFTs. For voting power is a whole different topic that lets people come over here, perma lock their Black token. You can see this is a super massive NFT that I got. This is actually an airdrop. They set these locks up as NFTs, and you can see the rebase APR, not that much, and it gives me, since I've locked some more Black token on top, total amount is 3,279 B Black voting power. So I can come over here and vote and get some of these like rewards from these different pools, and I can do all that. Again, different story on the voting side, but we do want to like track some of this stuff in terms of the Black token, where things are at. Now, this current setup doesn't have how much Black tokens are like locked up, I don't think. So they're working on creating their own Dune dashboard. But if there's a lot of Black token locked up, the performance of the Black token is probably going to do pretty good over time. And also is kind of like an overall indicator, one of the indicators of overall health of the DEX, in my opinion, to offset like all these emissions and, you know, people locking up Black to basically get a piece of the pie long term in terms of some of this voting power, rewards and rebates and things like that that's going on. That's kind of how that works. And again, if you see like a lot of burns and things like that versus the amount of like minted tokens, that's a good sign. You can see the market cap has like rounded all the way up to like 136 million and has kind of been downtrending since the market's obviously been downtrending a little bit. But again, if the Fed cuts rates next month, that could be very positive signs for literally the entire crypto space. And you can see the amount of wallets, 11K. This has gone up since the past 3 days. So it was at 10K, gone up to few hundred wallets. wallets. Pretty good sign. You want to see a lot of wallets participating in the ecosystem and all that good stuff, circulating supply or total supply, and then all that good stuff. So again, hopefully we'll have some more metrics and breakdowns of all of this once hopefully they have their own Dune dashboard set up, or we see some added metrics here in terms of what's happening in terms of like the NFTs for votes, like supermassive versus singularity NFTs. The difference between like a supermassive NFT versus a singularity NFT is that the supermassives are like perma-locked, and then the regular singularity NFTs are temporary locked black, which could come back into circulation. So again, something to keep an eye on, because if the whales are happy, then the overall performance of black token and the overall health of the entire DEX would be probably uptrending. But if the, you know, people are like dumping black or not locking black or not burning black, then that could be indication that the black token might go down a little bit. So again, these are all like just levers that you need to be, you know, wary of. Not saying like any price predictions or anything like that, just kind of these different levers that could indicate the overall health of the swap. But yeah, again, this is how you use the platform. You can use it like that, or use a platform like Vfat to maximize your automation and compounding and rebalancing and all that cool stuff if you're in like the CL pools versus like the basic ones. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So with that said, it is a swap too, and you can just go in and swap for whatever crypto that you need, or again, use a Vfat platform and it'll do all the swapping to dump your liquidity into these pools for you. But yeah, that's all I got for this video. Hopefully that shed a little bit light on how to use Blackhole in the best way. I haven't seen anybody put out a video on Vfat and how to use it. And also I haven't seen any like deep dives in terms of the black token and how it's basically being utilized, like minted versus burned and all that good stuff, which is good indicators in my opinion. But with that said, that's all I got for this video. If it helped you out and you know somebody else using Blackhole and this could help them out even further, feel free to share this video. And if you enjoyed it, of course, click the like button. If you like these types of videos, make sure you hit that notification bell. It's free to subscribe to the channel. Definitely do that to help out the channel if you dig the content. So with that said, that's all I got for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Be like an NFT, or in this case, be like a supermassive NFT. Be authentic, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.